Hi guys,
What's up, guys?
I'm Diane Collins.
I'm Justice Collins.
And you are watching
Kicking It with the Collins,
where we are bringing to you what God has brought to us through faith,
love,
and encouragement. So today, you guys, this is a very special video. We wanted to share with you guys our birth story and how our daughter was brought into the world. So that's what we're going to share with you guys today. But before we get started, we just love if you guys would like, comment, and subscribe. And also follow us on our individual Instagrams and also our joint Instagram, our Kicking It with the Collins Instagram. If you just search Kicking It with the Collins on Instagram, you'll find us. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So it all started on September 11th. About 4:15 a.m. on the 11th, I noticed that I was having really bad contractions, and they started at around 4:15 a.m. I was woken up because of the contractions, and also I had to go to the bathroom because when you're pregnant, you go to the bathroom like 10 times a night. So I woke up and I noticed that after I came from the bathroom, I was having contractions about 7 to 9 minutes apart, I believe is when it started. I was just keeping track of it on my clock. So I just remember going through those contractions about every 7 to 9 minutes apart, and they were lasting about maybe a minute or two every 7 to 9 minutes apart. I also noticed when I did go to the bathroom that I was having, sorry if this is TMI, but that's what a birth story is.
Yeah.
So I noticed that I was having a little bit of what they call a bloody show, which was like brownish type of discharge. And so I knew that something was up because I actually lost my mucus plug when I was 36 weeks, I believe.
I think so.
And at this point I was 39 weeks. So my mucus plug was already discharged, and also I was seeing this this bloody show as well. So I kind of figured, okay, this is it, but this is early labor because they were so spread apart. So I kind of let them ride out for about 3 hours. My husband, you were asleep at that point.
Yeah.
At 4:15.
Yeah,
you
I
had
was
to wake
knocked out.
up at like 5:30 to get ready for work. So I just kind of let him rest. And when he woke up, I let him know like, hey, I'm having these contractions, but you can go to work because I don't think anything is gonna happen anytime soon. And when you're a first-time mom, your labor kind of is drawn out a little bit. It takes a little bit longer for you to actually go into active labor. So I wasn't really worried about going into labor while he was at work. So he left, he went to work, and the entire day I was home by myself, kind of laboring on my own, which is kind of what I wanted. I was in communication with my mom and with Justice throughout the day just to kind of let them know what was going on and how I was feeling. And I had downloaded the contractions app, and I was just kind of timing my contractions and keeping up with them. So they were sporadic. They would be from 7 to 9 minutes, and then they started to be like every 15 minutes apart, 30 minutes apart, back down to 9 minutes apart. So they were really sporadic. So I knew nothing was gonna happen just yet. That night, my mom actually decided to come over, which I'm glad that she did, because a few hours later is when I would have started to go into active labor. So
It's good that she stayed too. She ended up staying the night, you know, because she felt like she had to. And I think that was perfect timing that she did stay the night because, yeah, we're gonna keep going, but that was the night where we actually, you know, left our home and head to the hospital.
Yeah, my mom came over that night, Wednesday, September 11th. Again, I had been laboring since 4:15 a.m. So at this point, I had been laboring for over 12 hours. And again, it was still very sporadic, but my mom decided to come over and spend the night with us just in case. That evening, I remember we had pizza and we were watching a movie, me, you, and my mom.
Just chilling.
And it was about 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we just decided, you know, let's just go to bed.
So when she was just having those light contractions on Wednesday, you know, I didn't know if I needed to stay home and be with you on Wednesday or if I needed to go to work. But she was just assuring me like, hey, you know, this is a part of the early labor process. Go to work on Wednesday. If I need you, I'll call you. But at work, y'all, I was on standby. Like the cell phone I was ready. I was literally ready. My other coworkers was ready too. So they was kind of just like on edge. We all on edge Wednesday.
Yeah.
I ended up getting through the day because I work an early shift. I work a 7 to 3:30. The shift went good and everything. Just made sure I was checking on her all day Wednesday. I came home. My mom-in-law was there. Diane was there too. And then we ended up going to sleep a little early. And then
what time would you say we went to sleep? Probably about
So I would say
10,
we went to sleep earlier than usual.
like 10:30.
I would say 10. But I know we both were kind of just like gauging if we was even going to get sleep or not. I know I was like, man, we close. We got to be close.
Yeah.
I don't know what time it was. Was it midnight where you were having those contractions, or was it a little bit before Thursday morning hit?
The whole night, I remember not being able to get much sleep because of the constant pain that I was feeling. So once we laid down, from when we laid down to when I woke everybody up to go, that was about 3 hours. So that whole time I was being woken up like every maybe 5 minutes because of the contractions that I was feeling.
Yeah.
So
about
1 o'clock, I believe is when I woke up because I had to go to the bathroom.
1 a.m. This is Thursday morning.
So almost 24 hours since I had first started contracting.
Yeah.
That's when I woke everybody up and I was like, hey, my contractions feel super close together. I started timing them for about 30 minutes. I timed them and it was very consistent that my contractions were every 2 to 3 minutes apart and they were lasting about 45 seconds. So I remember I did call my doctor that Wednesday. I forgot to mention. I called my doctor's office that Wednesday and he basically told me, hey, if you notice that your contractions are more consistent, they're lasting for at least 5 minutes. He said that if they are every 5 minutes apart, lasting for about 1 minute for 1 hour, then you should probably go to labor and delivery. So that is what I kept thinking about the whole time because I was actually starting to actually get closer contractions and they were lasting less than a minute and they were longer or they were shorter apart. They were 2 to 3 minutes apart. So I woke everybody up. I woke my mom up. I woke my husband up and I'm like, hey guys, I think we should just go to labor and delivery and see what's going on.
Yeah, we had the hospital bag packed and ready and everything. So it was just time for us to just go. The blessing too was that she was still able to still walk, still function in between those intense contractions. We live on the 9th floor. So getting down to the first level wasn't really a big issue or anything. We
were nervous about that at first.
Like if we needed
like,
a wheelchair.
Am I gonna be able to walk and get down there? But it was fine.
It was fine. So we loaded up the car, loaded up the exercise ball. Another blessing too is the hospital is 2 minutes away. This is a quick drive.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting there. We pulled into the emergency section, did emergency
Parking.
parking.
145 maybe.
Oh.
140. Because I have timestamps. I actually have timestamps, and we'll try to insert those as well. The video clips that we took throughout the whole process. I tried to capture as much as I could, but being in labor, you really are just worried about that. You're worried about yourself and your baby. But I did try to capture a few moments, and you tried to capture some as well. So we'll try to insert those videos in throughout the video as well.
True.
So yes, we get to the hospital. It's about 1:30 in the morning. And we ended up going through the emergency room because the rest of the hospital is closed at that point, and they directed us to labor and delivery. So we get to labor and delivery and we're in triage, and the doctors on call, the nurses on call, and the midwife on call, they wanted to monitor mine and baby's heart rate. And at first I remember us being there and them telling us, we're just gonna send you guys back home because your contractions, they're close, but they're not super close. And to us, that was kind of wild because we're like, they're like 2 to 3 minutes apart. Like, how much closer do they need to be? And so I made sure to let them know too that, hey, I want to have a natural childbirth. So I would like to, that's my goal. And I remember the midwife telling me, well, if you want a natural childbirth, then you should probably go home and labor at home as long as possible. Because if you stay here, then the more interventions will be offered to you, and the less likely you are to have that natural childbirth experience.
Yeah. At that point, the contractions, the reason why we even went to the hospital is because the contractions were already intense enough for us to have like our ears up, like, hey, these joints is intense. We have to head to the hospital now. So for them to tell us that they have to be even more intense before we can even like do anything. So she told us, go back home, continue to labor at home. And I remember her saying, so I'm paraphrasing, like, if the contractions are intense where you like possibly can't even move, that's when you need to come back to the hospital.
So
crazy.
Yeah, that was just like, not in our plan at all.
No.
And we knew too that like, if I go home, I'm gonna have this baby at home.
We're not gonna sleep.
I'm not gonna sleep.
No.
I'm not gonna be able to eat. I'm not gonna be able to function, because at this point they were so close together and they were so painful. The only time I would get rest is between that 1 to 2 minutes that I had in between my contractions, and even that they just were so close together so fast, because they were lasting almost a minute, and they were about a minute or two apart at this point.
Yeah.
So they are monitoring baby's heartbeat, my heartbeat, and they noticed. After they told us to go home, they actually left out of the room to kind of monitor our heart rates, just to make sure everything was okay. And they came back and they noticed that baby girl, when she would move in certain positions, she would be on her umbilical cord. She would kind of be pressing against it, which would kind of lower her heart rate, and then she would move and her heart rate would go back up. So they were kind of concerned about her heart rate. So thank the Lord that they came back in and changed their mind and said, actually, we're gonna keep you. That was a huge win for us. And so around this point, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and they get us to our labor and delivery room. And that's when things really started to take off for me. The pain just got even more intense, as if it couldn't get any worse. It definitely did. So I was laboring in the room for hours without any intervention. The anesthesiologist ended up coming in at around 8 a.m., I would say. So at this point, I had been laboring for over 24 hours. It was about 28 hours later. And they came in just to talk to us, give us the rundown on everything. At this point, I was still stuck and set on wanting to do a natural childbirth. I didn't know how I was going to do it.
She was holding on, y'all. She was holding on.
I really tried to do it.
Man, I got to say this too. Though we took natural childbirth classes too, you guys, beforehand for like almost a month. Natural childbirth classes. We can do this. Natural childbirth, let's get it.
We thought we had all the tools, and we did. It just wasn't.
Until it hit, it was tough because you didn't even want to move out of the bed. So it was tough for us to do like the hot shower, massages, the exercise ball,
I didn't
the little
want to
tips.
move.
You couldn't move. It was too unbearable.
It was very intense. I couldn't walk. I couldn't bounce on my ball.
Anything.
I couldn't do anything except sit there and freeze and just kind of like, sway. I was doing swaying. I was laying on my side. I was grabbing onto like the bed rail. There was a point in time at triage where Justice kind of like held me, and we just were like swaying
back and forth.
So it was very intense. So I want to say about 10 o'clock a.m. is when my mom kind of came in with the wisdom that she has and was like, I really think you should get this epidural. Because my nurse, I remember I told my nurse that I wanted to do a natural childbirth. And she said, well, just know that it's gonna get worse.
Yep.
When she said that.
Worser than this?
Worse than this?
Worser than this?
How?
She couldn't move, y'all. She couldn't move.
How could it get any worse?
Man.
So my mom kind of stepped in and was like, yes, I think you should get the anesthesiologist back in here and let's get your epidural going. So I decided to take my mom's advice. My mom has had 6 kids. So she knows what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of us, she did have natural, but she did have some of us with epidural. So so I took her advice and we got the anesthesiologist back in. Yeah. And pretty much right after the epidural, I felt loads better. But that is when things went downhill.
So on our we couldn't stay in the room pretty much when she did get the epidural. Me and mom, we had to leave. We really kind of just walked the halls. I was just praying in my mind. We was looking for food. We went down to
looking for coffee.
coffee. So yeah, we was just praying and everything, and then we finally. The funny part is they didn't even call us when the epidural procedure was done.
No, I tried. I couldn't find my phone.
So
I think that's what it was.
Something hit me while we were in the waiting room. Like, Ma, we've been in this waiting room for a minute. We need to see if Diane's done and everything with the epidural. So we ended up getting back to Diane. She's good. We walk in the room. She's smiling.
I'm smiling.
She's waving. She's hooked up and everything.
I'm a whole different woman.
I'm like, what is going on here? So it's kind of like we got to experience, how good and how efficient the epidural actually is. People may have some negative connotations about the epidural, but these anesthesiologists, they are trained. They know what they're doing.
I had a really good anesthesiologist
too. So if you need the epi, get the epidural.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
She knew what she was doing, and I thank God for that. I trusted my medical team.
Yeah.
They were awesome. The nurses were awesome. The midwives were awesome. The anesthesiologists were awesome.
Yeah.
So I trusted them, and I'm glad I did, because that was a really good choice that I made, because instantly I just felt that relief.
Wow.
And so about a few hours later, I got the epidural at about 10 a.m. And a few hours later, I noticed that I was itching. The epidural was making me very itchy. And so my nurse, she suggested getting an allergy medicine to kind of help with that itchiness. And it really did work. But it also helped me to feel really good.
She felt amazing.
Let's just say that.
On the camera, what are you waiting for?
Life is good.
Blackmail time. Come on, turn on the camera.
No, we can't put it on YouTube.
Make sure you don't get my pee bag.
I'm talking, you don't have to tell anybody, it's just for us.
How you feeling, babe?
I feel good.
Say, like I knew that I would.
Even better than I was when I got that
Epidural, yeah.
These are great choices.
Feel like you just had some good wine, huh?
Great life choices. Yeah. Minus the great taste.
Heather already kicked in.
Yeah. That happened quick. I said, whoa.
Like that.
So the standstill from my perspective was, I just have a number set, 3.5 centimeters dilated. It's just in my head. That's where Diane was.
Yeah.
And you have to be
10
centimeters dilated fully to be able to actually progress and start pushing for the delivery. We were stuck at that 3.5 centimeters dilated.
Since we
got there for a while.
To the hospital that morning.
So the
at
epidural.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So the epidural kind of eased Diane's pain and kind of brought back, her sense of awareness on what's going on. However, it just slowed down the dilation process. Like, in she needs to be 10 centimeters dilated, and I don't know how long you were 3.5 centimeters dilated, but it kind of did just slow down that process. Do you know how long you were?
I was 3.5 centimeters dilated until I believe it was 4 p.m. I believe 4 p.m. the following day, that Thursday. So from Thursday morning when we got there at about 1:30, 2 o'clock a.m. till about 4 p.m. I was 3.5 centimeters dilated. The midwife would come in every 4 hours to check to see if anything had changed, and nothing had changed until about 8 o'clock that night. So that entire time, I'm 3.5 centimeters dilated. At this point, it's the afternoon. We've been there for over 12 hours and nothing is happening. Baby girl her heart rate is steadied. She's good. My contractions actually started spreading more apart. So instead of being 2 to 3 minutes apart, now they're about 8 to 10 minutes apart, and they weren't getting any closer.
And also the muscles that you were using for contractions were just being, it's kind of like wear and tear.
My uterus, my uterus was so tired because I had been in labor since that following day, over 24 hours. So at that point, my uterus was pretty tired and could no longer labor on its own. So the nurse came in and suggested that they put me on Pitocin to try to speed everything up. Again, that wasn't something that was in my birth plan. That wasn't at all what I had planned for. However, I'm glad again that they did do that intervention, because if not, they told me I would have been laboring for days on end. So in order to kind of speed things up again, they suggested taking Pitocin. So they started me on a Pitocin drop. I think it started at 2, and then every hour they would increase it by 2 again. And at that point, my contractions started to speed up more. I was feeling them a little bit more. Still not as bad as I was that morning before the epidural, but I was starting to feel them a little bit more. So at about 8 p.m., after hours of having my epidural and my Pitocin, the midwife comes in and she checks me and she says, how far do you think how far do you think she's dilated? And everybody was saying like, what, like 5, 6 centimeters?
Give me 6, we good. Give me 5 or 6.
Right, we just wanted something sort of progress.
Size 3.5.
Yeah, and she looked at all of us and she said, you are 8 centimeters dilated.
What? So happy, y'all.
Yeah.
Because it was just 3.5 for so long, but the small dosages of Pitocin really started pushing things forward, more quicker than we thought. Yeah. And 8 centimeters dilated, which pushes her even closer to actually start pushing, and we get into the labor process a little quicker. So how were you feeling, babe, when she mentioned the 8 centimeters dilated? Could you tell? Were you nervous? What was going on through your head?
No, I could not tell. I couldn't tell. Yeah. I did have some sense of knowing something though, because I remember going in and out of sleep. That entire time I was able to rest a lot, and we were able to kind of like sneak food because I needed food. I mean, I had been there for so long, and they want you not to eat if you can. But I just remember telling you and my mom that I kept feeling this urge that I was supposed to be pushing. Yeah. Not that I was having that reflex that some women have where like you just push involuntarily, but I did feel like we were getting close to that time where it was time for me to push. Yeah. So when I finally got to 8 centimeters, I felt relieved and I felt excited because I knew that we were getting closer, and it was only up from here. There's no way I can go back on my dilation. I'm just gonna keep going forward. Right. Yeah. So the doctor came in 8 o'clock p.m., let us know the good news, and she said, I'm gonna come back at 12 o'clock a.m. to check you again and see where we are. Yeah. We all looked at each other, me, you, and my mom. We were like, too far. You're not coming back at 12 a.m.
This baby will be back here soon. Yeah, this baby will be here very soon. We all felt.
We all looked at each other like, she'll be back.
At 8 centimeters dilated, the Pitocin is still working as we speak.
So that they dialed it down.
Yep, they dialed it down, but the 8 centimeters the Pitocin is pushing that 8 centimeters to 9, right? So it's like, oh yeah, this baby's gonna be here very soon. So we're all just kind of just getting ready. It was a sense too when we got to that point of calmness with Diane, because she knew, like, yeah, it's time. It's gonna be time to push. So that nervousness, I'm sure, kind of switched into like game mode. Yeah, like push time. Like it's gonna be time to push.
It definitely did. So my water broke at about 8:45. That was about 45 minutes after I was told that I was 8 centimeters dilated.
Baby is getting close. She's really feeling the contractions now. Really feeling the contractions. Everything is expanding. Her water actually just broke too. So it's pretty much getting ready. She's breathing through each contraction, getting mentally prepared. We've got the hydration station.
Once that happened, things really started to speed up. Yeah. So my nurse came in and she checked me and she was like, I think you're about ready to push. She was like, I want to make sure with the midwife first. So let me call her in and see where we are. She started setting up like the labor table, and we just started
First, they
getting
had the
things
table
ready.
in the back.
Yeah.
They had the table by like the entrance door.
Yeah.
Long table, all type of like
Tools.
I don't know, and stuff is on the table. We like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So she brings it over to like the side of my bed, and she starts setting it up. And the midwife comes in. It seems like everything happened so slowly, but
They were so calm. too,
everything was so calm.
Yeah, they
My
were so
mom
calm.
was great. My husband was great. Everybody, like my whole medical team, everybody was awesome when it came to this, because everybody just kind of knew what I wanted, and everybody was just so peaceful and so helpful.
Yeah.
So yeah, they started setting up the bed about 9 o'clock, 9:30
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And then the midwife came back in. She said she was coming at 12, but we knew she was coming earlier than that, because we knew that baby girl was gonna be here soon.
Yep.
So she got into our room at about 9:30, I wanna say.
Okay.
And she checked me and she was like, yep, we're ready to push.
Yeah.
So they wanted to actually do practice pushes.
Yeah.
So we started pushing. I started pushing at about 10:24, I think, or 10:20. It had to have been like 10:25 or something. 10:24, 10:25. So we did practice pushes first.
And get this too, guys. She ended up being on her back too.
Yeah, which I did not want.
That's the thing that we had in our birth plan. On what we did not want was her to deliver on her back. Just because what we've been reading, the classes we've been taking, they were saying sometimes the back position, being on your back and your legs up, is not optimal. However, our plans were not God's plan. She ended up being on her back pretty much. And it was just game time at that point.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of myself for having flexible plans. I just wanted my baby to get here safe. I just wanted to be safe, and I wanted everything to just still work out and be okay, and in a healthy situation for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So, and plus I had the epidural, so at that point my positions were a little limited. I could have done, I think like laying on my knees, being on my knees and having like my hands on the back of the bed, but that just wasn't optimal in the situation and in the grand scheme of things. I was glad to actually be on my back, because I was able to see the process of everything, and I did have a mirror, so I was able to kind of see her coming out into the world. And I'm so glad that I decided to do that, because for me that is motivation. I know some women are kind of like grossed out from that, or they just don't want to see that, but for me that was what I needed and to motivate me and to push me, literally, no pun intended, to push her out. So I actually labored for over 24 hours and almost 48 hours. I labored almost. It was about 38 hours, I believe. 42 hours
total,
that I labored from Wednesday morning up until when I was pushing. So my mom and my husband were both holding my legs, and we did a couple of practice pushes. And even on the practice pushes, I remember hearing the midwife say, "Do you see all that hair?" And I'm like, what? Like, she has hair? Like, oh my gosh, she's coming out.
The first push, the first push was a practice push.
Yes.
Where Diane gets her rhythm going, her breathing. They gave her tips on like how to push and when to push and when to rest. The first push, you just saw hair sticking out.
Yeah.
You just saw hair.
Yeah.
I'm like, this baby is gonna have a lot of hair.
Yeah.
And I think that was just more motivation for you. Like, let's keep going with it.
Yes. Yeah. So it only took me 26 minutes to push her out.
Yeah.
She was born at 10:54 on September 12th, 2024. She was weighing 7 pounds even. She was 20.25 inches long. And that's when I lost it. When they laid her on my chest, I just began to praise and just cry and just worship the Lord, because it was such a miracle. And the way things happened, it didn't happen the way I planned, but it happened exactly the way that God planned. And I don't regret any choices that I made. I don't regret not having a natural childbirth experience. I love my story just the way it is because God formulated it, God wrote it. And so that is what mattered to me the most.
Yeah. So true. And just realize too, you guys, that our plans may not be God's plan. That's in our birth story, but in life in general, because we had our whole birth plan like scripted and written out. We were reading books and looking at Instagram reels and taking classes and just being as knowledgeable as we can. However, some of the things that we wanted to happen didn't happen. However, it didn't matter because we ended up getting baby girl safe and sound, and she was healthy and everything. So you kind of do have to be just flexible, you guys. Not everything that you see online may be true. That story may not be your story or anybody else's story, right? So it's just amazing that we just get to kind of be parents now. We're kind of in this season of parenthood, and
kind of going back to what you were saying about her health, we have to mention as well that when my water broke, there was meconium that came out as well, which signified that she had gone to the bathroom, which ultimately meant that she possibly swallowed the meconium herself. And that actually ended up happening where there was a little bit of meconium in her lungs. So when she was born, I didn't hear, I remember hearing life. I remember hearing her crying loud. To me, it sounded very loud, and it sounded like she was good. But the doctors, the nurses, and the midwife were a little concerned, and he also could tell that she had like this gargling cry. And so she could only be on my chest for a few minutes, and the umbilical cord that we wanted to keep on for a while, we wanted to do delayed cord clamping, we could only keep it on for so long because she had to actually be taken to the warmer to get her lungs pumped with air so that they could kind of flush out that phlegm and that meconium that she had in her lungs. So Justice was over there with her, and I just remember my mom telling him, you go be with your baby and I'm gonna be with my baby. So he went over with her, and my mom stayed with me. And I wasn't concerned at all. I actually did tear. I had a 2nd-degree tear. So the midwife was working on stitching me up and delivering the placenta. So I was still in the bed. I couldn't move or anything. And the baby was over across the room in the warmer, and Justice was over there with her. They had to pump her for, how long would you say? About 10, 15 minutes?
Maybe 15 or 20 minutes. But they were really good and like detailed. While they were doing a procedure on her with like giving her oxygen, they would always make sure I was good too. I don't know if I told you, they would like let me know what they're doing, why they're doing it. When they took baby girl over to the warmer, they were just, assuring me that everything is good. We're just trying to clear out her lungs, clear out what's ever going on down there. They wanted a strong, healthy cry. And on the outside looking in, it wasn't that strong. But they ended up giving her the oxygen that she needed. She was at a good weight as well. She was a trooper. She did so good too.
She did. She did so well. She even got one of her first shots, and she didn't make a sound. She didn't cry at all. So that is the gist and the full story of our birth story and how our baby girl got into the world, how she came into the world. Just remember that we make plans, but the Lord determines our steps. That is a scripture that I continuously live by, and our birth story is what truly shows that. Because if we would have stuck to the birth plan that we made, I don't know where I would be today. I don't know where my child would be today. I don't know how my experience would have been. So I thank God for the people and the medical staff, the professionals, my family that he put into my life that helped me, that supported me, that gave me wisdom, that poured into me in that time that I really, really needed it. So this is a testament to God's will, allowing God to really write these things for you, and never be too set in your ways and set in your plans that you're not flexible when things change. I remember our pastor talking about making plans, but let your plans be flexible. So always let your plans be flexible.
Yeah.
I may do a video about postpartum. It's been a season. It's been a tough season. It's been a rewarding season. It's been a great season.
We're doing it, y'all.
We are doing it.
This may be the next video on how we're like handling postpartum.
Yeah.
You know, and how post baby. You know, so yeah, we're doing it, you guys. Baby girl is doing good right now.
Baby
She's
girl
super healthy.
is doing well. She's a little over 3 weeks, so I'm about 24 days postpartum.
Yep.
I feel good physically. Finally, it did feel like for a while that it just felt like I would never feel better. It did feel like I'll never heal. It felt discouraging sometimes.
Yeah.
But everything takes time. You have to be patient with your body. You have to be gentle with yourself. Rest. Don't get out of the bed if you don't have to. Don't do extra stuff if you don't have to. Even if you think you're feeling good, give yourself time, because your body has a way of reminding you that you just gave birth. So remember, ladies, to rest after you give birth. Take that time for yourself and for your baby to get to know them and spend time with them, because that time goes by so quickly. Our baby is about to be a month in a week. And that is just
crazy.
So crazy to us. It's such a blessing, but it is definitely going by so quick. We thank God she's still in the newborn phase for right now. We are getting minimal sleep, but we don't care.
It's worth it.
She is so worth it. She is a reward from the Lord. She is the fruit of my womb.
We're finding a rhythm too, right?
Yes.
Like on what works and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
we are finding a rhythm.
Yeah.
So we just thank God for our birth story. We thank God for our baby girl.
Yeah.
And we thank God for the season we're in. Yeah. So if this video touched you in any way, if it encouraged you, if it entertained you, whatever it did for you, we just ask that you guys would like this video. Leave any comments or questions that you have down below. And we will see you in